In the darkness, there were chains, dozens of them. Some ended in hooks, with pieces of skin, and others were dripping blood. A person tied in chains yelled for mercy. His hands and legs were chained to the wall. A man with a mask on his face entered the chamber. On the left side of the mask, an angel was drawn, and on the right side of the mask, a demon was drawn. The man took a chain with hooks and pierced it on the back of the person. The person screamed in pain and the blood rushed out of the wound. He begged for mercy, but the man didn't stop. He took another chain with the hook and pierced it on his stomach. The person screamed again, louder this time. The man said, "Don't think about the hooks or the chains or the blood or the wound or the pain. You all people just start screaming and crying when you suffer any wound. Have you ever thought about why you feel the pain? No. You dumb humans just start crying even when you get pricked by a needle." The person interrupted with a scream. "Shut up. Free me. It's hurting. I am losing blood. I don't want to die. Who's killing you? I am just telling you that your concept of pain is wrong." The man went and grabbed the chain with a hook. He pulled the chain, tearing the person's back skin. He then grabbed the other chain and pulled it, tearing the stomach. The material inside the stomach fell on the ground with a lot of blood, and the person died. The man kept looking at the face of the dead person, which was wide open in shock. The phone rang in a local police station, and the head of the police station, Sylvester, picked up the call. "Hello?" He listened to the call for some time and then cut the call. An assistant policeman asked him, "What happened, sir? Why are you shocked?" Sylvester replied, "Got a call from another police station. They found the dead body of their station's head in an abandoned building." "So, why were they calling you?" "That area doesn't come under our jurisdiction. They called to warn me. They are saying that I may also be on the murderer's list. You take care of all the cases. I am going home to take some rest." Sylvester leaves the building and glances over. He noticed a man wearing a mask with half angel and half demon watching him from a building. He ignored him, sat in his car, and started driving. He kept driving for some time and then noticed that someone was chasing him. He accelerated his car, and the car behind him also accelerated. He got a little bit tense. He kept driving and stopped his car. The car behind also stopped. He decides to interrogate him and steps out of the car. He started walking towards the car. The driver started driving backward and sped up. Sylvester started running, but all in vain. The driver cut and accelerated, leaving Sylvester behind. He noticed that the car didn't have any license plates. He got in the car and drove to his home. In the evening, he was watching television in the bedroom. He looked outside the window and was shocked to see the same car standing in front of his house. He grabbed his gun and ran toward the door. As he opened the door, he watched the car leave. The car accelerated and got out of his view. At night, Sylvester went to his room and lay on the bed with his wife, Rosie. His wife was in a good mood and kissed him. He didn't tell her about a person chasing him. He didn't want to worry her. He also kissed her back, and both of them made love. Sylvester woke up, tied in chains. His vision was blurry. After his vision gets cleared, he glances around and finds himself in an old and empty warehouse. His head was spinning a little bit. He thought, "Where am I? What happened?" He found that his hand and legs were tied with a chain that were attached to the wall. There were other chains in the room with hooks. He started getting anxious and worried. He started screaming, "Help! Let me out of here." He heard some footsteps approaching. He got furious. He saw a shadow approaching him, and then a man with the same mask on his face came with a gun in his hand. Sylvester started yelling, "Why am I locked here with chains? What do you want?" The man shot Sylvester in the knee. Sylvester screamed in pain. Lesson number 1. Don't scream when you feel pain. You allow your brain to believe that you are feeling pain. Don't you have control over your brain? What the fuck do you want, and where am I? Sylvester screamed in pain. "I don't think you need to know where you are. Here, no one will come. Here, only my rules are applied. So, it will be better if you keep your fucking mouth shut. You psycho. I will kill you." Sylvester spit on the mask. The man wiped his face with his hand and started laughing. "You can't do anything. It's all your perception. You can think of me as an angel or a demon. You can think of this place as heaven or hell. It's all about your perception." Sylvester didn't say anything and again tried to spit on him, but the man punched him in the face before he could do that. Save your saliva because you will not be getting water here. You are not a guest here. What the fuck do you want? Sylvester shouted. What do I want? Let me think. I will tell you later. Fight for your survival till then, the man laughed. Do you think you can fool me? You will say all this rubbish and I will be scared? Sylvester shouted. The man ignored Sylvester and left the room and locked the door from the outside. Sylvester kept shouting, but there was no response. After a few minutes, the man entered the room, took out a knife, and made a cut on Sylvester's chest. He screamed in pain. The man shouted, What did I tell you? Not to scream even if you were feeling pain. Don't you understand fucking English? Sylvester kept screaming. The man left the room and came back with a needle and thread. He grabbed Sylvester's lips and sewed them. His lips started bleeding. The man shouted, Now scream. I will not leave you until you stop screaming when you receive any pain. You need to keep in mind that whenever you suffer anything, you should not feel the pain. You should observe the situation and think about why I am feeling the pain. Is it worth it? He left the room again and Sylvester kept shouting. After some minutes, Sylvester lost some blood and passed out. At the police station, Rosie was crying and the assistant head of the station, George, was calming her down. He slept with me last night, and when I woke up, he wasn't there. The entry door's knob was broken, Rosie said while crying. The main question is, how did they take Sylvester out and you didn't even get to know about it? And why didn't he try to wake you up? George looked toward his team and said, Go to Sylvester's house again and look, we are missing something. See if there's any object missing that could have been used to hit him. The team arrived at Sylvester's house and started checking again, but didn't find any object missing. Sylvester woke up on the bed with blood and glucose drips. He touched his lips and found that thread has been removed and his chest has been bandaged. He looked around and rubbed his eyes. The man with the mask arrived inside the room and greeted him. Happy to see you healthy again. You need a psychologist. You are out of your fucking mind. One time, you try to kill, and other times, you act as a savior. What's going on with you? The man didn't say anything. Are you deaf now? Or have you lost the ability to speak? Or do you only know the rubbish you were saying about the pain? Sylvester raised his voice. The man said, Take proper rest. You will soon leave for your house. The man adjusted his mask and left the room. Sylvester tries to stand but fails. He remembered that he was shot in the knee. He started screaming and after some time, he started feeling low and fell asleep. Sylvester woke up and found himself tied in chains in the same old and empty warehouse. He thought, What the fuck? Not again. What does this man want? While he was thinking, the man with the mask entered the room and shouted in anger, So, are you ready? Sylvester didn't say anything. The man again shouted in anger. I said, Are you ready? Sylvester again didn't say anything. The man took the chain with the hook and shouted more loudly, Are you ready? This time, Sylvester shouted, No, please no. The man shouted in anger, That's not the answer I want to hear. I am asking you again, Are you ready? Sylvester shouted, I said no. The man shouted, Say that you are ready. Say it. Sylvester screamed, No. The man interrupted, Yes. The man came running and pierced the hook in Sylvester's stomach. Sylvester screamed in pain. You motherfucker. I told you to not scream when you were receiving pain. Can't you understand one simple thing? What's so difficult about this? The man shouted and pulled the hook, tearing Sylvester's stomach. Blood and other things fell on the ground. The man pierced the hook on Sylvester's neck and pulled it, tearing his neck, and shouted, Don't you understand what I said? The man inhaled loudly and exhaled with force. He took some minutes to calm down and then looked towards Sylvester, whose body was full of blood and torn at the stomach and neck and was now dead. The man breathed uneasily, took the hook, and pierced it into Sylvester's back. He laughed and said while taking a long breath, See? Now you understand. You didn't scream. I am a good teacher, and I taught you well. Someone rightly said that practice makes a man perfect, and now you are perfect. Congratulations, the man continued laughing. He left the building. At the police station, the news of Sylvester's death reached and a murder case was registered. The police station of another jurisdiction called every other police station to tell them that the head of the station was also missing. When you cut the skin, blood comes out. What's its color? It's red, as you can see yourself right now. When you see blood coming out of your body, you should not be scared. It's a natural process. When people see blood, they start shouting blood, blood. If you observe your wound, the blood coming out of it, and then think about how the blood is coming out and why are I feeling the pain, that time you will get the answer to the question, should I be feeling this pain? And if I am feeling the pain, then why am I feeling it? A person's arm and legs were tied with chains and a hook was pierced into his arm out of which blood was coming out. The man with the mask was sitting in front of him. So, what's your name? Why should I tell you, you fucking bastard? The person said in pain. Well, I have your ID with me. I was just being polite, but I don't think you deserve it, the man with the mask said. The person screamed in pain. The man smiled. Lovely. Your name is Evan. So Evan, tell me, what's your concept of pain? Evan shouted, like you were a pain in the arse. That didn't feel good. Let me ask you again. What's your concept of pain? Evan didn't say anything. The man stood up and came closer to Evan and asked again, tell me, what's your concept of pain? Or I will show you with a full feeling what the concept of pain is. Evan didn't say anything. The man kept staring at him for some time and then picked up a knife. He opened his shirt and cut his chest. The blood started coming out of it. He didn't say a single word and just stared at the cut, and the blood came out of it. After a few minutes, he looked toward Evan and said, this is what I am talking about. Evan didn't say anything. The man asked, have a look at the cut on my chest. Evan tried to look but closed his eyes. The man said in anger, so, now you are not able to see the cut and blood? You are so weak-hearted? Please, stop this madness. I cut myself to teach you something and you ignored it. I am giving my best to explain to you and you don't want to see it? The man grabbed the hook and pierced it in Evan's right eye. Evan screamed, and with every passing second his scream faded away. The man looked at the dead body of Evan and kept standing there for a few minutes before leaving. The news of Evan's death came out as a shock, as in the last few days, 3 heads of the police station were found dead in a similar manner. The police headquarters placed a high-ranking officer, James, to investigate the murders and catch the criminal. James asked the officers of all the jurisdictions to start searching their areas and look if they found any hideouts. The police of all jurisdictions started immense searches. James sat in the car and arrived at the crime scene of Evan. He arrived near the body of Evan, which was in horrendous condition. James asked the forensic doctors on the site, any fingerprints, doctor? We are trying our best to find one. James came out of the building and asked one of his assistants, did you get any information about the last time Mr. Evan was in the house? Yes, sir. His wife told us that he came home last night and he slept immediately after drinking. When the wife woke up the next morning, Mr. Evan was missing. James thought for a moment and then said, same happened with Sylvester and Damon. They both were also found missing by their respective wives when they woke up. Also, there were no signs of struggle in any of their houses. This proves one thing, that the murderer is a single person. Now, the question arrives, how the hell did the murderer kidnap them? James kept thinking when he got a call from headquarters. He picked up the call and listened for some time. After the call was cut, he ran toward his car and drove it to his house. He entered the house and found that no one was in the house. He called his only boy, Charlie, but he didn't pick up the call. He again received a call from an unknown number. He picked up the call and said, hello? From the other side of the call, hello, Mr. James. Hope you are doing great with your investigation. Well, it's just a waste of time, but you humans will do it anyway. Those 3 humans deserve to die. They didn't know the concept of pain. I tried to teach them, but they didn't want to learn. You know, in a classroom, a good teacher removes bad students from the class. In the same way, I removed those 3 useless humans from the earth. Now, I tried teaching all aged humans, so I thought why not give it a try to a teenage human? So, I brought your boy. What is his name? Alan. With me, and now I will try to teach him properly, and I promise you that when Alan will return home, he will be a stronger man who will know what real pain is. The call cut. James called the police headquarters and told them about the latest events. He called the communication department and asked them to trace the number from where he received the call. After some time, he got the report of the call location. Without wasting any time, he left in his car without telling anyone. Alan was hanged upside down with chains tied to his legs and hands. The man with the mask was sitting in front of him. He asked Alan, "Alan, do you know anything about pain?" Alan said in a discomforting tone, "I want to go back to my father. Please, leave me." "You will go back to your father, but I promised him that I will send him a stronger version of yours who will know what real pain is. So relax. My head is feeling heavy. Please." The man said, "You know what happens when a person stands upside down for a long time? It can cause blood to pool in the skull and pressure can build up inside the brain and eyes. This will result in congestion in the blood vessels causing strokes or even rupturing of blood vessels causing bleeding. And when that bleeding will start, I want you to not scream as I want to teach you that pain is not a simple concept as you humans think. You start crying and start screaming when you get hurt physically and mentally. I am here to teach you how to be strong, how you should not let pain empower you." Alan became unconscious. The man laughs, "You are too weak. Hands up, you motherfucker." The man raised his hands and turned around to find James standing in front of him. James was breathing heavily and pointed a gun toward him. "Don't you try to do anything, you smartass," James said while pointing the gun. The man started laughing. "You police people are such a joke. I don't give a shit about you people. What will you do? Shoot me? Then go ahead, shoot. I will not scream like those officers. I will not beg for mercy like those officers. I will not suffer any pain like those officers because I know the real concept of pain. I don't give a shit about your pain or whatever. You are just a psycho who murdered 3 head officers. You will be arrested for it and will surely get hanging orders," James shouted. The man started laughing. "You think I will be scared? Humans are scared of all this shit. I am not a human. I am a messenger. The concept of pain is not easy to explain. I made an effort to teach the lesson of pain, but that effort is still in progress. You know, the concept of pain is not easy to understand, so I try to put the person in that situation to make them understand what I am trying to say. Why did I select heads of the police station to teach the concept of pain? Well, that's a good question, but it has a simple answer. Do you want to be my student? I am willing to teach you." "Say it," the man said while facing James. "I will take my boy, arrest you, send you to prison, and will try my best to get you death punishment," James shouted. "Do whatever you want to. I am not scared of anything. I am not human, I told you. I am both an angel and a demon. My angel side tells me to teach you what pain is, that you should not be scared of pain, blood, or any wound. My demon side tells me how to teach you about pain in a brutal way. A person doesn't learn anything if done easily." You know that the man laughed. James took out his mobile and called his team. He told them the location and asked them to reach there. "I already said. Enough of your bullshit. My team is coming. Your game is over." The man didn't say anything for some time. After some minutes of silence, he grabbed his mask and removed it. James got terrified after seeing the man's face. "What are you?" "I told you I am not human, but you did not believe me." James didn't say anything but kept his gun pointing toward him. The man smiled, to which James thought his smile. "It's so terrifying. What is this person?" His face, James' hand started shaking. "I know what you were thinking. My smiling face. This is the face of both an angel and a demon. Now, you have also witnessed it, and those who have seen this face have never lived long. So you can decode what I am trying to say." The man kept smiling. James didn't say anything and tried to keep his gun pointed toward him. The man lowered his arm and started walking toward James. James shouted, "Stop and raise your hands." The man grabbed the chain with a hook and kept walking toward James. "Stop whatever you are doing. This is my last warning." The man didn't stop and started running toward James. James shot him in the chest. The man didn't stop and kept running. James shot him again in the chest, but it didn't affect him. The man grabbed James by his head, pierced a hook into his neck, and fell to the ground. James grabbed the hook pierced into his neck. Blood rushed out of his neck, and he began to fade. He took out the hook and fell on the ground with blood rushing out of his neck and covering the floor. The police team arrived at the scene after 10 minutes. They checked James, who was lying dead on the ground, and Alan, unconscious, tied with chains. There was no sign of the man. There was only a mask lying on the ground. This news spread like fire, and heads of the police stations of all jurisdictions were now asked to brace themselves, and their security was beefed up. After a week, The family members of all the dead policemen sat in the police headquarters when the head of the operation, John, arrived and sat in front of them. He said, "I asked you all to come here to tell you about the murderer." Sylvester's wife Rosie asked, "What do we have to do with this information?" "Catch that bastard. I think it's important to know about the murderer. I did a detailed investigation about this person and got a lot of details about him. Let me tell you." He opened a notepad and said, his name was Fred. His childhood consisted of hardship. His father was a sadist and loved torturing people for his pleasure. He would chain Fred and would torture him by cutting his skin, especially his face. He loved him screaming with pain. Growing up under an abusive father, he developed repressed mental illnesses of his own, such as bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. He made imaginary friends and told them about his pain. The pain of having an abusive father, the pain of losing his loving mother, the pain of getting tied to chains every night, the pain of getting his skin cut every night, the pain of losing blood every night, the pain of not getting any help, the pain of loneliness, the pain of feeling unwanted. He developed a mindset that everything is against him. This continuous talking of pain with his imaginary friend made him mad. When he was found in the basement, he was taken to the hospital and his father was arrested. He is still in prison. After a few days, Fred escaped from the hospital and descended into madness. He became obsessed with duality and opposites and developed a second persona, the messenger who has come to Earth to tell people what real pain is and to make them stronger. He wanted the world to show the pain they suffer when they get small wounds as nothing. Fred woke up in shock. He saw the injury he got due to gunshots. There was a piece of mirror in front of him. He picked up the mirror and looked into it. His whole face looked like it was never cleaned. There were some hairs left on his head, and it looked like someone plucked his hair forcibly. His head skin was also torn badly. On the left side of his face, there was very little skin and his facial bones could be seen. The right side of his face was full of scratches. His nerves were exposed and blood was dried on scratches as if no one cleaned them ever. All the wounds on his face looked old. He started staring at his wound, stood up, and moved forward into the sewage chamber. "Sir, I think I cracked it. See these reports. All these officers who were killed by Fred were the heads of prisons where his father was held. His father got transferred 5 times. Nowadays, he is in his 5th prison. As you know, the heads of the police station are also the heads of the prisons. So, Fred targeted the heads under whom his father was in prison," an assistant policeman told John. John said with amazement, "Excellent. That's a great connection. This means that the 5th head of the police station. What's his name?" "Ben. He must be in danger. Alert him and increase his security." "Sir, one more thing." John raised his voice. "What is it?" "Sir, we found traces of halothane, which is a sleeping gas from the houses of all the heads. Fred used gas to make them unconscious and then took out the heads. And due to the gas, all of the wives were also unconscious. They didn't know what happened and when. This also explains why there were no signs of struggle as all of them were unconscious. Nice work. Keep it up. Now, I will go to TBC prison where his father is being locked." John left the room. It was raining outside. Fred came out of the sewage chamber and in front of him was the TBC prison. He kept staring at the prison and didn't move. He watched a car coming toward the prison's gate. After some minutes, the car entered the premises. John parked the car and left to meet Ben. Fred opened the car's back bonnet and came out. He took out a piece of glass from his pocket and started walking by the wall's side. Due to rain, guards were not standing outside. Fred entered the gate and found 2 guards sitting there. He ran and sliced the neck of both the guards. He continued walking and turned toward the prison cell where prisoners were locked. Another prison guard asked him to stop, but he didn't stop. He kept walking and threw a glass piece which pierced the guard's eye. He screamed and grabbed the glass and took it out. He screamed more loudly. Fred grabbed his mouth and whispered, "No screaming. This pain is nothing. What did you lose?" "An eye? So what?" The guard got scared seeing Fred's face from so close. He kept screaming, but his scream got suppressed as his mouth was covered. Fred sliced the guard's neck. Fred kept walking and stood in front of his cell. An old man was sitting on the floor. He looked at Fred and smiled. "So, you're here. They took you away from me, but see, you came to Papa again." Fred smiled. I tried so many people, but I never tried you. So tell me, what is pain? The old man said in a confused tone. What? What is pain? What question is this? Fred continued smiling and said, "Come closer to me. I will tell you." The old man stood up and started walking toward Fred. Fred continued smiling and picked up the glass when a bullet hit him on the side of his neck. Fred didn't scream or shout. He grabbed the neck and checked his hands, which were full of blood. The smile had gone from his face, but there was no emotion on his face. The old man jumped back. Fred turned sideways and found a team of policemen along with John coming running toward him. John again shot, and this time a bullet hit him in the head. He fell to the ground. John came near Fred, and the chapter is closed, at last. "You can't kill me," Fred shouted. John got scared and jumped and shot Fred again. Fred's vision got blurred, and he saw a dark, empty room with chains hanging from the roof. The door opened, and a shadow approached. The shadow with chains tied to its neck said, "Humans have become weak, and you tried your best to make them stronger, but the mission is not yet over. I became your friend as I saw some fire in your eyes, because you know what real pain is. Now, it's time for you to take a rest. You have suffered a lot from the very beginning. The concept of pain will be taught to everyone. It's not over." Fred's eye closed.